Good morning, everyone. Welcome for joining this information session on WEAV. I hope you can all hear me clear and well. So today we will inform you about WEAV. So I'm F.R.S from FWO, and together with my colleagues, I will guide you through this session. Next slide, please. So first of all, I will introduce you WEAV in a general manner, and then my colleague Florence from FNRS will inform you how WEAV is included within FNRS and which opportunities it will bring you. Then Tine will inform you about the opportunities within FWO. And of course, we made sure that there is sufficient time for your questions and answers. Of course, please do not interrupt us. You can put all your questions in the Q&A. It's on the bottom of your screen. So please write your questions there, and later on we will tackle them all. Next slide. So what is WEAV? Let us start with a video on WEAV to inform you what this initiative is.
WEAV is a cross-European initiative to fund and support excellent international research projects. It allows researchers from up to 3 different countries or regions to apply for funding through a single evaluation procedure. WEAV aims to make it easier for researchers to collaborate across borders and simplify submission and selection procedures. By enabling bilateral as well as trilateral scientific cooperation within Europe, WEAV contributes to the European research area. To apply, a team of researchers choose one coordinating applicant who submits the joint proposal to their respective funding organisation. The other researchers then submit a copy of the proposal to their own funding agencies. WEAV is based on the lead agency procedure principle. The funder that receives the proposal evaluates it according to its internal rules. The funding recommendation is communicated to the other funders involved. You can check where, when, and how to apply using the Find Your Funding tool on the WEAV website. Enter the corresponding organisations, potential start date, and duration of the project. Click Submit and the tool will search for opportunities and provide all relevant information, including submission links.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed this little video and that it already clarifies what WEAV is. However, I would like to show you in a schematic way how WEAV works in practice. Yeah. Because you're all here, of course, to search for the opportunity for you to make sure that you can do your research with the partners of your choice in the topic of your choice. So as already showed in the previous video, there is a website, weavresearch.net, where you can have a look which countries and agencies participate in WEAV and which funding scheme is open for WEAV. By default, it is open for all domains. However, it needs to be basic research. Maximum, you can submit a trilateral project. However, a bilateral is, of course, also possible. So how does it work? Well, you as a researcher, you have your own team in country A, and you would like to collaborate with, for example, a team in country B. You can, of course, also include a research team from country C, but let me show you an example of a bilateral project. Click. So you will draft your joint collaborative research project together, so the team from country A with the team for country B, and make sure that each team that you include has an added value. So don't wonder whether you need to include another team. It needs to make sense scientifically. So you need to justify why you include each team and which role each team will take within your joint collaborative research project. Then you ask yourself the question, where will I submit this proposal? Well, you have the free choice, and there is also no strategic choice to make because the WEAVE success rate over all the involved partner or funding agencies is capped at 20%. So even if the success rate in Swiss, for example, is larger, they will handle the 20% success rate within WEAVE. So here in this example, you submit to funding agency A, which automatically will become the lead agency responsible for the further evaluation of your proposal. Of course, click, each funding agency is responsible for the eligibility check of the proposal. So lead agency will inform all involved partner agencies of the received proposal and each will perform the eligibility check. Click. Click another time. So you will see the lead agency is performing the evaluation based on the regulations in place within this lead agency, and it will take a decision. Click, it will inform the partner agency about the funding decision that it took, and the partner agency needs, of course, to ratify that decision based on all the documents that the lead agency will provide to the partner agency. And of course, in the next step, each funding agency is funding its own partners. This means that funding is not crossing any borders and that for the reporting, indeed, you will only have to contact your own funding agency and not the one abroad. Next slide. What is, of course, the added value of WEAVE for you, for the research communities? Well, it fosters a balanced collaboration because you can now apply for the funding needed by each partner included. This is different than, for example, the principle of money follows collaboration that we handle also at FWO, in which 10% of the funding can go abroad within the regular project scheme. But here it's more than 10%. You can just apply for the funding that is really needed by each partner. It's also bottom-up, so there are no thematic restrictions whatsoever, which makes it complementary to, for example, the partnerships, the European partnerships. There is also no double jeopardy, so you don't need to be successful twice in order to receive the funding for all included partners. And what is also a plus within WEAVE is that you as an applicant, you are already familiar with the regulations in place as WEAVE is embedded in the existing funding schemes. The participating funding organizations are listed on this slide. There are already 12 partners that signed the WEAVE agreement. It's Austria, it's of course then FWO and FNRS, it's the Czech Republic, it's Luxembourg, it's Poland, it's Sweden, it's Croatia, Germany, Norway, Slovenia, and Switzerland. Of course, those partners, they all signed the WEAVE agreement. However, this does not mean that we already include them in the schemes of FWO and FNRS. This is something that will increase over the years, and you will later on in this presentation see for which partners we already opened up our schemes. In practice, so all those included here in this information session, you have two possibilities. On the one hand side, you can submit at your own funding agency, and then I mean the funding agency for which you are an eligible researcher. This means FWO for the Flemish research community, and there it's the scheme of the junior and senior research project call that is open. And for the researcher in the French-speaking community, it's of course FNRS, and there the scheme of the Projet de Recherche PDR call is open. You have to submit a full proposal with the budget details of all partners included. And that's important, the budget of all the partners included, not only the budget that you request at FWO or FNRS, but also for your foreign included partners. There also needs to be an administrative submission done for the other partners at the respective agencies. Make sure that you submit it in time with all the documents necessary. And then there is a regular evaluation procedure of the funding agency where you applied. Then on the other hand, you can submit a full proposal elsewhere. So for researchers from the Flemish community, those are the opportunities. You can submit it in Slovenia, in Germany, in Austria, in Luxembourg, of course, at FNRS, in Poland, in Switzerland, and what is new from this year onwards is also in Sweden, F.R.S. We will go into detail later on in this information session. For the researchers from the French-speaking community, you can submit your proposal in Germany, of course in Flanders, in Luxembourg, and in Switzerland. Also at the lead agency, so where you submit, there as well you have to submit your full proposal with the budget details included for all partners, but also an administrative submission needs to be done here at FWO or at FNRS. And it will be a regular evaluation procedure by the lead agency, the agency where you submitted. Next slide. This is again a slide on the Weave tool with the link included, where you can see all the possibilities that you have to submit. So you just add it, you click it, and you will have a pop-up with all the details included. Next slide. Then already we go in depth in the collaboration within Belgium. So when you are a Flemish researcher or a researcher from the Flemish research community, you can submit at FWO and we will become the lead. The deadline is always every year on the 1st of April. This year, the 1st of April is a Saturday, so automatically by regulation, it becomes the 3rd of April. You have to submit an administrative version at FNRS before the 10th of April, and please make sure that it includes an identical PDF of the proposal that you submitted at FWO. All the FWO as well as the FNRS regulations apply, including the project quota. It means within FWO, you can only submit maximum 2 projects a year, and you can have only 2 projects running or 1 submitted and 1 running, etc. So a Weave project is a regular FWO project and it is included within your project quota. The French-speaking partners, on the other hand, need to abide to the FNRS regulations. The project duration when you have an FWO FNRS project is maximum 4 years, and you must have an equal project duration on both sides. FWO will perform the evaluation. We will propose the funding decision to FNRS. They will also ratify it in December. We will still inform you in December, and the official start of the contract is the 1st of January 2024. Of course, you still have some time to start later on in practice. It's only the starting date on paper. Then the collaboration within Belgium, if you decide to submit at FNRS, the deadline is the 6th of July. FNRS will become the lead and will perform the evaluation. But besides submitting at FNRS, you also have to submit an administrative version at FWO, and this before the 18th of July. And that's the good news of the day. Last year, we still had to work with a pre-submission, but we found a solution for that because that was not so easy for you as a researcher. So for now, there is no longer an administrative pre-submission needed. You have 7 working days before your administrative version needs to be submitted at FWO. Make sure, however, it's the same version with the same budget and the same names included. So here as well, the FNRS colleagues, they have to abide to the rules of FNRS. The Flemish partners have to abide to the FWO regulations. The project duration is maximum 4 years with an eco-project duration on both sides. FNRS has become the lead, will perform the evaluation. They will propose a funding decision to FWO. FWO will ratify it by its board in December. We will still inform the research communities, both of them, in December, and the start of the contract on both ends is the 1st of January 24. Then just some statistics. You can see that last year, FWO as a lead received 26 proposals with FNRS, some of them trilateral, some of them bilateral, and 8 of them have been approved, handling a success rate of 20%. So if the success rate based on those numbers is higher, it just means that they were successful and that they fell into the top 20%, the top 20 most excellent proposals. When FNRS was the lead, they received 15 proposals in total, and 3 of them have been selected for funding. Next slide. Let's go to WEAVE within FNRS, and I give the floor to Florence.
Hello, everybody. So I will detail you exactly the conditions to participate in WEAVE with the FNRS. So first, let me start by showing you a little update of what happened last year. So we had collaborations with 4 partners, FNR, SNSF, FWO, and DFG. So Luxembourg, Switzerland, Flanders, and Germany, respectively. Concerning our WEAVE project, so when people from the French-speaking community went and submitted proposals outside of the FNRS to another lead agency, we had 34 proposals submitted to other lead agencies, and a total of 10 were funded. So a good success rate. And in our PDR call, similarly, we had 31 proposals submitted. As you can see, some were actually trilateral, so between Switzerland and the Flanders, and between Germany and Flanders. But we had 31 submitted proposal and a total of 7 funded. This year, the FNRS will collaborate with the same 4 partners. So once again, Luxembourg, FNR, Switzerland, SNSF, FWO Flanders, and DFG Germany. So the first thing you have to ask yourself, and I think Isabelle made a good point of trying to make you understand, is you have to know which is the lead agency. If the lead agency is not the FNRS, then you have what you're going to apply for a WEAVE project. If the lead agency is the FNRS, then you will apply to a PDR project. There are some different conditions whether you're a WEAVE or a PDR. So if you're applying to a WEAVE, as mentioned before, the partner agency is solely responsible for the entire evaluation process. You still have to submit an administrative submission to the FNRS within 7 days after the call closure of the partner. We have some rules as well. So you can only have 1 WEAVE application running at a time. So you cannot apply for a new WEAVE application until the whole evaluation procedure of your other WEAVE application is finished. The proposals that you submit in this WEAVE application are in direct competition with other proposals submitted to that partner agency. And the funding proposal of the partner agency will be ratified by the FNRS after by an internal written procedure, and the results will be announced by the partner agency. We try to coordinate so that we all have almost a simultaneous communication from the partner agency and the FNRS. If you submit at the FNRS, so you submit a PDR, the FNRS will be responsible for the entire evaluation. So if you're from the French-speaking community, then you will know all the procedures. The WEAVE partner still has to make an administrative submission to their agencies within 7 days after call closure. And PDR rules apply, of course. So you can have only one application as a principal investigator per call. The WEAVE partners also have to respect the rules set in place. So for example, you just heard the rules of the FWO, so they still have to fall within those accumulation rules. The proposals are submitted are in direct competition with other proposals in the PDR call and are evaluated by the 14 scientific panels set in place at the FNRS. And of course, the funding, so the FNRS will evaluate the proposals, make a proposal for funding, and the partner agency will ratify this proposal. The results will be announced by the FNRS in that case, with almost simultaneous communication from the partner agency. Now let's go into some specific details of when you submit a WEAVE application. So when FNRS is a partner agency, and for example, Luxembourg has the lead. So the submission that you will do, your WEAVE submission, will be in the core call of the FNR in Luxembourg. You have to do your administration in eSpace. It's going to be called WEAVE FNR. Then you have to have administrative submissions of other partners if you have a trilateral project. The project duration is 2 or 4 years. And if there's a specific case, if you include a German partner from the DFG, the project is capped at 3 years. It's 3 years and nothing else. Here are some key dates. So the FNR deadline is on April 20th, so which makes the FNRS deadline 7 days afterwards, April 27th. And of course, you have to check the other partner's deadline if you have a trilateral project. Once again, the evaluation procedure of the FNR will apply, so they will be responsible for the entire evaluation process. And the project start will be on January 1st, 2024. If you submit at the SNSF, so if you submit a WEAVE at the SNSF, so you will participate in the Encouragement de Projet call from the SNSF. Once again, you have to do your administrative submission on eSpace. SNSF has a particularity. It has 2 deadlines, one in April and one in October. The administration, again, the other partners, if you do have a trilateral project, also have to do administrative submissions at their agency. The project duration is here again 2 or 4 years, but capped at 3 years if a DFG partner is involved. So as I mentioned before, the key dates, SNSF has 2 deadlines. There's one deadline in April 1st, 2024, and one deadline in October 1st, 2023, sorry. So there's a deadline on April 1st and a deadline on October 1st, and FNRS participates in both deadlines. So which makes the FNRS deadline for the administrative submission on April 8th and October 8th, respectively. And of course, the other partners should also do their administrative submissions for the right deadline. If you submit a WEAVE at the SNSF, once again, the evaluation procedure of SNSF will apply. The project starting date for the April deadline will be on January 1st, 2024. And for the October deadline will be on June 1st, 2024. Now, what if you go to the FWO as a lead agency? So it's been detailed before, but it bears repeating probably. So you have to do your full proposal submission in the junior and senior research project call of the FWO. Of course, again, the administrative submission on eSpace, WEAVE FWO, and of other partners if you have a trilateral. The project duration 2 to 4 years and 3 years if DFG is involved. The FWO deadline you just heard is April 3rd, 2023, sorry. So which makes the FNRS deadline on April 10th, 2023. And of course, you have to check the other partners' deadline. And the evaluation procedure of the FWO will apply. The project start date will be on January 1st, 2024. Now, if you choose to apply for WEAVE at DFG, then the submission is a bit different. First of all, the main difference is that your project duration will be 3 years, not more, not less. So the full proposal submission, you have to do it in the individual research grant call of the DFK, with, of course, the administrative submission with DFK and of other partners. So what I mentioned before, the project duration is 3 years. Doctoral students, the length of the doctoral student has to be 36 months. However, we know that in Belgium, doctoral PhD lasts for 4 years. So you will have the possibility to ask for 1 extra year of funding only for the doctoral student that is outside of your requested budget. So it's an extra funding for the 4th year of the doctoral student. Some key dates. So the DFG deadline will be on April 3rd, 2023. So technically they have no deadline, but they have agreed with us that we will set an artificial deadline. So it will be April 3rd, 2023. The FNRS deadline, therefore, will be on April 10th, 2023, and of course, other partners' deadline. Once again, the evaluation procedure of the DFG will apply, and the project start date should be January 1st, 2024. So here's a little summary of everything that I've just said, and you even have the amounts of the maximum budget per year and all of the specific thing. The only particularity, as I said, is DFG, 3-year projects, and you have 1 extra funding for the PhD, the 4th year of the PhD student. Now, what happens when you submit a project with FNRS as a lead? So, of course, so first let's talk about the bilateral collaboration between FNR and SNSF, with FNR or SNSF. So with FNR SNSF, you will submit your proposal in the PDR call of the FNRS. So here, FNRS is the lead. You submit to us. And of course, your partners have to do an administrative submission at their agency within the deadline that their partner agency has set. The project durations are 2 to 4 years. The FNRS deadline will be July 6, 2023, and the partner deadline 7 working days after the F.R.S FNRS. Of course, because you apply at the F.R.S FNRS, then our evaluation procedure apply. And the project start date will be January 1st, 2024. And the start of the WEAVE partners will be according to their agency, to the agency rules. If you have a bilateral collaboration with FWO in Flanders, so once again, you submit your project within the PDR call of the FNRS. Your partner has an administrative submission. The project duration is 2 to 4 years, and we have exactly the same deadlines. And of course, once again, the evaluation procedure of the FNRS applies. With DFG, it's a little bit different. So that's why I'm gonna give some more precisions here. So first of all, once again, because FNRS is lead, then you will submit in the PDR call of the F.R.S FNRS, and of course, an administrative submission for your other partner, your German partner. Once again, with DFG, the project duration is set at 3 years. Here are the deadlines. So the F.R.S FNRS deadline will still be July 6th, and the DFG deadline 7 working days after the F.R.S FNRS. The project budget is a bit different. So here, the maximum budget for a single institution project is 336,000 for the 3 years. And the maximum budget for the multi-institution project is 483,000 euros per year. The doctoral student here, the cost for the entire duration, so the 48 months, must be included in your maximum budget. Once again, the evaluation procedure of the F.R.S FNRS will apply, and the project start date will be set at April 1st, 2024. And of course, your partners start at their agency according to the rules of their agency. Now, you can also have, as it was mentioned before, trilateral collaborations. So if the FNRS has the lead, then once again, you submit your project in the PDR call of the FNRS, and both your other partners will do their administrative submissions at their agency. The project durations will be 2 to 4 years, only capped at 3 years if a DFK partner is involved. Our deadline has not changed. We will do the evaluation procedure, and the project start dates are set. So January 1st for projects that do not involve DFK. So for example, if you have a trilateral project, FNRS, FNR, and SNSF, it will start on the 1st of January. If you have a DFK partner, then it will start on April 1st, 2024. And once again, a small summary table of all the conditions that apply if you want to apply in that call. Here is a quick summary also of all the deadlines that you have. So as I said before, the calls will open soon in for all our partners. You have a first deadline of April 1st for Switzerland, April 3rd for FWO and DFG, and of course, eSpace deadlines for all of them. The deadline for submission at FNR is April 20th. Normally on May 16th, we will open our PDR call, and the submission deadline, oh, here there's a small typo, it's written July 7th, it will be July 6th. It will be corrected in the final PDF version. You have the different project start dates. If you have any questions or if you need more information, of course, we will answer them here in the webinar. But if you have any additional questions or specific questions, you can always contact either Deborah Materne at this email address, Joël Groeneveld, or myself. Thank you.
So hello, everyone. I'm Tine Jacobs. I'm Advisor International Affairs at the FWO, and I will now give you more information on WEAV within FWO. Next slide, please. So here is an overview of the WEAV call 2022, so the previous one with FWO as lead. As you can see, we received in total 90 eligible applications, and 20 of them were granted. On the next slide here, you can see the numbers of FWO as partner. So 63 were submitted to another funder, but involving Flemish researchers, and 13 of them have been granted. I have to add, however, that for DFG Germany, 7 results are still pending. So we are still waiting for the outcome of those 7, and we will of course inform the involved researchers as soon as possible, as soon as we receive more news from DFG. You can see here as well that there were some nice trilateral combinations at the bottom here in blue. So it's nice to see the impact that WEAV can have for Flemish researchers. On the next slide, so WEAV within FWO, very briefly, because Isabel also talked about it in the introduction. You can choose to submit your application to the FWO as lead. Then you have to submit the application to one of our FWO expert panels, and it has to be submitted as a junior or a senior research project fundamental research. There is a specific application form in the FWO ELOCAT. It's called Research Project WEAV. FWO acts as lead agent. I also have to inform you about the FWO panel structure reform. So the panel scopes have been reformed. A new medical panel has been created called MED9, and the specific interdisciplinary panel also has been reformed. But here is a link behind the panel structure reform, so you can really go through it in detail after the info session or whenever you want. Also, the FWO budget forks have been revised. So for staff and consumables, we now have set a condition that at least 50,000 a year has to be requested for the entire project. So including all Flemish, federal and non-Flemish institutions. The other hand, at most 145,000 euro per year can be requested per Flemish or federal institution to the FWO. So please take into account this new FWO budget forks. We will update the web pages today, so you will find all information there as well. For the Flemish researchers involved, the regulations of the research project's fundamental research apply, of course. So this also means that the WEAV applications are included in the calculation of maximum of 2 projects per application round and the maximum of 2 requested and running projects that one can have at Flemish sites. The WEAV applications are being evaluated in competition with all the submitted FWO junior or senior research project fundamental research. Then the FWO will formulate and motivate a funding recommendation to the involved other WEAV funders, the so-called partner agencies, and they will ratify this decision. And at the end, each WEAV funder funds its own research teams. On the other hand, the consortium can decide to submit the WEAV proposal to a funder abroad, so to another lead agency, and that lead agency will be responsible for the entire evaluation. But even then, for the Flemish researchers, WEAV proposals are still taken into account for the quota, so maximum of 2 projects per application round, maximum of 2 requested and ongoing projects. You still have to do an administrative submission to the FWO, being the partner agency. This has to be done within 7 working days after the deadline of the lead. Another specific form will be available for this submission. FWO acts as partner agent. The lead agency will formulate a funding recommendation to the FWO as partner agency, and we will bring it to our board for ratification. We will not do another evaluation, and the FWO will fund the involved Flemish researchers of the applications that are being proposed for funding. On the next slide, you can see the partners for WEAV Call 2023. So we will still collaborate, of course, with our previous partners, being Austria, the French-speaking community of Belgium, Germany, Luxembourg, Poland, Slovenia, and Switzerland. And from this call onwards, we will also start collaborating with Sweden, FORMAS. So this is a new opportunity for Flemish researchers within WEAV. Here's the same overview, actually. So you can submit a bilateral proposal to FWO with one of these partners, but there are also trilateral proposals possible. And on the next slide, I will go into detail, and we will add in the coming years Czech Republic, Norway, and Croatia. And of course, if new partners will join the WEAV initiative, we will add them as well in the future. Here's so an overview of additional opportunities for our Flemish researchers. For example, a Flemish-Croatian collaboration is also possible within WEAV, even though FWO and HRZZ, we don't have our bilateral agreement yet. But if the consortium decides to submit the proposal to Slovenia, to F.R.S, a trilateral collaboration is possible. Or you can choose to submit, for example, to SNSF, Switzerland. Then you can also collaborate with your Croatian partners. On the next slide, so now I will really go into detail of all our possibilities within FWO. So collaboration with Austrian partners. If FWO is the lead, as said before, the deadline this year is the 3rd of April, because the 1st is a Saturday. You also have to really respect the internal deadlines at your Flemish host institution. This is also very important. An administrative submission needs to be done to the FWF, the Austrian funding agency, in time. You have to upload an identical PDF. At Flemish side, always all FWO regulations apply, including the project quota. And of course, the Austrian partners have to abide to the FWF regulations. Project duration on both sides is maximally 4 years. FWO does the evaluation, we do our funding recommendation to FWF, and they will ratify it. However, FWF will only ratify around March 2024. So in mid-December of this year, the FWO will only be able to do a conditional allocation, but we will be very, very clear about this in our communication towards the involved researchers. On paper, the project will start at FWO site on the 1st of January 2024. At FWF sites, they will start within 6 months after approval. At the right top, you can see the trilateral combinations that are also allowed. On the next slide, so when FWF is the lead agency and FWO is partner agency, the deadline is normally 1st of April 2023. In case FWF will also extend their deadline to the 3rd of April, we will communicate this and update our web pages. You have to submit an administrative submission to the FWO in time. Please upload an identical PDF again. For the Flemish researchers, FWO regulations apply, project duration 4 years maximally. FWF is responsible for the entire evaluation. They do a funding recommendation and the FWO will ratify the results. It is expected for the end of 2023, so the projects will really start on 1st of January 2024. Collaboration with Swiss partners when FWO is the lead. Deadline is of course still 3rd of April. Administrative submission needs to be done to the SNSF. All our FWO regulations apply for the Flemish researchers. Swiss partners must abide to the SNSF regulations. Project duration maximally 4 years. FWO responsible for evaluation, and we expect for the ratification of SNSF to be done by mid-December. So then we will communicate and project start on the 1st of January. When Switzerland, SNSF, has the lead, we are partner agency. They also have the deadline of the 1st of April 2023. However, they have a second one, normally 1st of October, but this is not a possibility for Flemish researchers. So if you want to collaborate with your Swiss partners and you want to submit to the SNSF's lead, only the 1st of April deadline is a possibility. So the project duration is also 4 years. SNSF does funding recommendation. We expect also the result at the end of 2023 and start of successful project on the 1st of January 2024. Then Luxembourg, when we are the lead, the project duration is maximally 4 years, but when FNR is the lead, it will be different. I will talk about it in the next slide, but here as well, results will be available mid-December and start of project 1st of January. When FNR has the lead, so the next slide, yeah, their deadline is the 20th of April, and the project duration is maximally 3 years. So a 4th year is allowed, but only for costs related to a PhD. So in case a PhD student is requested in the 4th year at FNR site, at Luxembourg site, the Flemish applicant is also allowed to apply for 4th year budget, but with only costs for a PhD and a bench fee. And this, of course, has to be scientifically motivated in the application. The results of FNR as lead are expected end of 2023, start of the project 1st of January. Here I have to add as well that FNR will start collaborating from this call with Slovenia, with F.R.S. So this is a new possibility as well if FNR is the lead. Collaboration with Slovenian partners, we are the lead. Here it's important to know that an administrative submission has to be done at F.R.S in a very sharp timing. So the deadline is 3rd of April at 2 p.m. for the administrative submission to F.R.S. And besides this, a copy of the full application as submitted to the FWO needs to be submitted to the F.R.S within 8 days after our FWO deadline of the 3rd of April. Please take this into account because F.R.S is very strict about this condition. The project duration is, again, maximally 4 years when FWO is the lead. It's different when F.R.S is the lead. The results will be communicated mid-December, start of project 1st of January. When F.R.S has the lead, again, here the new possibility of involving Luxembourg researchers because of the new starting collaboration between FNR and F.R.S. The deadline of F.R.S is the 28th of February, 2 p.m. sharp again. For their regulations, please check the F.R.S website. Here, the project duration is maximally 3 years. So also at Flemish site, when F.R.S has the lead, project duration is maximally 3 years. The results of F.R.S are expected after summer 2023. But at FWO side, the projects will only start on paper on 1st of January 2024. Slovenian partners might start earlier. It's allowed by F.R.S. Collaboration with German partners. So the project duration is maximally 3 years. So whenever German partners are involved and DFG is involved as funder, the project duration is 3 years, even when it's submitted to the FWO and even in trilateral projects. DFG will only be able to ratify FWO's funding recommendation in a conditional, they will only be able to ratify it in spring 2024. So FWO will again have to communicate in a conditional way mid-December 2023, as was the case with FWF. When DFG has the lead, their deadline is the 3rd of April, so 1st of April, Saturday this year. So also DFG set their deadline on the 3rd of April. Project duration, even when, in all cases, project duration is maximally 3 years. Their results from DFG will be expected December 2023. At FWO side, project starts on 1st of January 2024. Collaborating with Polish partners is the next slide. So FWO as lead, NCN is also very strict about the identical PDF that has to be uploaded in their administrative application form. Please take this into account and be very careful in drafting the proposal, because there are some specific elements that may impact the eligibility at Polish sites. You cannot mention any names of Polish PhD students or postdocs due to the obligatory open selection procedure at Polish sites. And you have to carefully motivate the budget for the Polish teams. There is a specific exchange rate of the NCN that has to be used for this calculation. With all these details and information will be made available on the FWO web pages later today. Project duration 4 years, results will be communicated mid-December, start of projects 1st of January. When NCN has the lead, they will only launch their call on the 15th of September with a deadline on the 15th of December. Project duration 4 years, NCN does the evaluation. We will receive their funding recommendations mid-2024, but on paper at FWO side, the project can only start on the 1st of January 2025. So you have to take this into account. You can already start talking, of course, to your Polish researchers and prepare all the activities that you plan to do, but only the 1st of January 2025 will be the moment from which on the FWO budget is made available and the moment from which on you can start declaring costs at Flemish sites to the FWO. And then, of course, our brand new collaboration with Swedish partners, so with F.R.S. You have to be careful in drafting the proposal, because the F.R.S really has some restrictions. They have specific areas of responsibility. It's environment, agricultural sciences, and spatial planning. So the Swedish part of your joint WEAV proposal really has to take this into account. They have to adhere to these restrictions, the Swedish researchers. Project duration, this is a special case. It's maximally 4 years at Flemish sites, and it's always maximally 3 years at Swedish site. We will communicate mid-December, start of the project on FWO site, 1st of January. When F.R.S has the lead, their deadline is the 30th of March. The project duration, again, maximally 4 years at Flemish site and 3 years at Swedish site. Their result will be expected for December, and the project start on FWO site on the 1st of January 2024. Some other important messages that we really want to inform you about. So you really have to clearly indicate and scientifically justify the budgets of all the included teams in your submission to the lead agency, because the lead agency is the one responsible for evaluation of all the budgets requested, also from the foreign research teams. Please make sure the requested budgets in the lead agency application are identical to the requested budgets in the administrative submissions to the partner agencies. In the previous calls, we noticed some discrepancies in the budget requested in different budget years. So please make sure that this is identical in the lead agency application and in the partner agency application. So we really advise you to have a close look at it and to respect the FWO budget forks. Definitely when FWO is partner agency, please respect them when you do your submission to the lead agency. So also another one, the third one, sorry, the previous slides. So in some lead agency application forms, only main applicants should be named and other team members have to be anonymous. For example, when NCN is involved, Poland, when they are the leads, some applicants have to remain anonymous. But then it's still required in the FWO administrative submission to list all the persons, the Flemish and the non-Flemish ones, that will take up an official role in the consortium. So you cannot restrict to only the supervisor spokespersons, but also list to the FWO all co-supervisors. And upload in the administrative submission always the complete and identical application with all the attachments, not only the project descriptions, in the form how it has been submitted to the lead agency. Next slide. Another rule, of course, important to inform you about is that you cannot submit an identical WEAF project to more than one funding agency in the same year. About project durations, in the slides before, I already mentioned it, but we have also a very clear overview about maximum project duration. So please check it whenever you start preparing an application. As said before, important message, success rate of the lead agency applies and it's always kept at 20%. So it's the WEAF threshold. The communication with the researchers is done through the lead agency. So where you have submitted your proposal, they will inform you about the decision. And our last slide is some personal information, some contact persons at the FWO and some very interesting FWO pages. So thanks a lot. And now I give the word to Joël.
Good morning, everyone. So this is the fourth and last part of this presentation, just the question and answers. So when you signed in for this, session, you could also already ask questions. So we inserted all the questions that were relevant, of course, within this presentation already. And then afterwards, we'll go to the questions that were asked during this session as well and that have not been answered yet. First question, which is always a good question to start with. It's always useful to have the presentations in electronic version at the end of the webinar. And yes, we will put all the slides and the video recording of this information session online. And we will also make an extended Q&A. So the frequently asked questions will be available again as soon as we are able to take all your questions that that I will answer right now and that we answered so during this session. Then next question, is it possible to submit a project bringing together research from FWO and FNRS and another partner? Yes, it is possible to do trilateral collaborations. It depends on the lead agency that is chosen, then the partners may differ. If you decide to apply in the PDR call of FNRS, FNRS is the lead agency, there's a possibility to add partners from Flanders, from Switzerland, from Luxembourg, and from Germany. So, and only trilateral. As Tina just explained, if FWO is the lead agency, there are more possibilities to add partners. So from Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Luxembourg, Slovenia, French-speaking Belgium, Poland, and as she finished the new possibility to work with FORMAS from Sweden this year. So if you apply at FWO, it would also be possible to work with work with FWO, FNRS, and one of the other agencies that FWO works with that is not on the list for when FNRS is lead agency. So how are the chances of success influenced by picking the lead agency? For instance, will the lead agency give most value to the scientific weight of its own applicants? So is it better to apply with the agency of the more senior, more excellent partner? So no, it is the lead agency that will do the evaluation of the entire project and of all researchers involved. And the lead agency success rate applies, so it's always 20%. So there's no difference in the chances of success. Next question. I live in Austria. If I want to apply for WEAVE and FWF is the lead organization, when should I apply? Because according to FWF, I should apply according to the guidelines of standalone projects, would have no strict deadlines, but a processing time of 4 to 6 months in general. Is this correct? So in principle, FWF indeed has a continuous submission system, but in order for FWO to be able to work with them, FWF agreed to set a deadline, which is now set on the 1st of April, as Tina mentioned, and might shift to the 3rd of April to be in line with the other deadlines at FWO. And so the result will be ratified as all other calls with partner agencies of FWO end 2023, and the successful projects will start on the 1st of January 2024. Then next question, the WEAVE website mentions 2 deadlines for WEAVE calls between Poland and FWO. However, the FWO website mentions that only specific deadlines apply, that the current deadline for the call for collaboration between Poland and FWO is closed. I've seen this question come by more times. So, and I think Tina replied to it also in written. So please be aware that FWO will update its WEAVE web pages today. So the new WEAVE call at FWO will be launched today. And just to be more specific on the question, so this year, in 2023, for bilateral Flemish-Polish collaboration within WEAVE, there are 2 possibilities. The first one, you submit in the FWO call as a lead, and then the deadline is, as mentioned, the 3rd of April 2023, or you submit on the Polish side at NCN, and then the deadline is much later in the year. It's on the 15th of December 2023. So we also refer to the aforementioned slides on the FWO-NCN collaboration to really look into the details. Then it appears that the collaborative project involving the FWO and the Czech Science Foundation is currently not among the possible applications on the WEAVE. Yes, this is correct, since they do not have a bilateral WEAVE agreement collaboration yet. And will this change in the near future? It will not change in 2023. And so the idea is to work with all partners at a certain moment, but this changes from year to year, and it should only grow normally. This question was already in the slides as well. So how many WEAVE projects were applied for and granted for Flanders and Wallonia, Brussels since the initiative was launched? So in the WEAVE call 2022, in the call of FWO, there were 26 submissions that included partners from Flanders and from French-speaking Belgium, and 8 projects were funded with the FWO as lead. So in the PDR call of FNRS, there were 15 submissions, and 3 projects were funded with the FNRS as lead. Can partners from countries that are not already included in the WEAVE agreement be involved as a third party? For example, Norway. So other countries can always participate, but they should participate on their own funds. So this applies to both the FNRS and the FWO calls, and specifically for the FWO call. So apart from the foreign research institutions deemed eligible by the foreign weave partners, no other non-Flemish research institutions are allowed to participate in the weave application, which is in contrast with the regular senior and junior projects where 10% of total project budget can go abroad. So is it possible to say something about success rates? Well, this is quite straightforward. So weave projects are not evaluated separately. Your weave application is evaluated in competition with all other applications submitted to the lead agency. So if you apply in the FWO call for junior or senior research projects, you are in competition with all the other proposals that are submitted in this call. And if you apply for the PDR call of the FNRS, you are in competition with all the other PDR proposals that are submitted in that call. And the same goes, of course, for all the other partner agencies where you could apply. And what is otherwise very straightforward is the success rate of the lead agency applies, but it is capped at 20%. So, and most included funding agencies in WEAVE have a regular success rate of around 20%. So this question relates to projects between the German, the DFG and FWO. So last year, only 3 years of funding could be requested instead of the typical 4 years. Will there be opportunities to request funding for the 4th year at FWO in the 2023 call? The answer is, again, very straightforward, no. For consortia involving German and Flemish researchers in the WEAVE call 2023, the maximum project duration allowed at German as well as at Flemish side will still be a maximum of 3 years. So a very interesting question, of course, concerning the inflation. So would the budget be adjusted accordingly? So at the FNRS, and you can see this in the previous slides of this presentation as well, the amounts have been adapted for 2023. And so at FWO, the budget limits have been increased. So staff and consumables have new budget forks. So at least 50,000 euros per year for the entire project. So all Flemish, federal and non-Flemish included, and at most 145,000 euros per year per Flemish federal institution. So before last year it was still 130,000, so it went up significantly. And for equipment, a maximum of 150,000 euros per project can be requested, and this goes for all Flemish and federal institutions included. The FWO panel structure has proven particularly problematic for me. So this is about someone who would like to, a physicist that develops computational models and data analysis techniques, but who is also affiliated to the Faculty of Psychology. So this is about interdisciplinary research. So if the FWO is lead, it is the responsibility of the applicant to choose the correct expert panel and motivate this choice. There is no cross-check with the Foreign WEAVE Research Foundation. Applications can be submitted within the reformed FWO expert panel, so the specific interdisciplinary panel, and the new approach for multidisciplinary applications within the monodisciplinary panels has been implemented. And if you want to have more information on this, there are links in this presentation, which you can of course consult online afterwards. And also more details on the scope of the specific interdisciplinary panel, which undoubtedly is already available on the FWO website at the moment as well. Is the focus on fundamental research? Yes, the program is directed toward fundamental basic research programs. So as a research station, we form the bridge between fundamental research and the practical application of new inventions and developments. Is it possible for us to be involved in the fundamental research to make the next step into a in practice usable technique easier? So if based on the FWO and FNRS regulations, your institution is eligible to apply for FWO or FNRS funding, and the project proposal focuses on fundamental basic research, then you can participate. If you have questions about this, at the FNRS side, you can check if you want to participate in the PDR called the PDR guidelines. And if you want to participate in a call in one of our partner agencies, you can check the WEAVE regulations on our website. And at FWO side, the regulations of the fundamental research projects apply. Then, do you need to have the budget from the partner university when submitting the proposal? If yes, how and where this should be detailed. So yes, all budgets, so the requested budgets at the lead agency, plus all the requested budgets at the partner agency or partner agencies should be clearly indicated and scientifically justified in the submission to the lead agency. This is mandatory because the lead agency is responsible for the evaluation of the entire project proposal and needs to be able to evaluate all the budgets that were requested. So how and where to list these details, it depends on the application form of the lead agency. So best practice is to check the requirements of the lead agency and make sure that the requested budgets in the lead agency application are identical to the requested budgets in the administrative submission to the partner agency. So is WEAVE included in the maximum of 2 running FWO projects? I think Isabel already answered this very clearly. So yes, the WEAVE projects are taken into account for the maximum of 2 projects per application route for which you can act as a as a supervisor or a co-supervisor spokesperson. They also fall within the rule stating that the total number of research projects of fundamental research are applied for and currently ongoing in name of one and the same co-supervisor spokesperson cannot be more than 2 on the starting date of the new granted project. So yes, the 2, it's capped at 2. For French-speaking Belgium, what will be the maximum average cost per year? Is it the same as PDR 2022, or is there an indexation foreseen? So this is a question came by a bit earlier as well. So when the FNRS has the lead, the cost for the PDR is applied. And when the FNRS is a partner agency, the average cost per year are the same as that of the PDR call of the year of application. So for 2023, the same as for our PDR call 2023. So all costs are detailed in the WEAVE regulations. So what is the budget with the different partner organizations? So this was already in our slides before, but for the FNRS, so there's a maximum budget of 84,000 euros for a single institution project, meaning one institution from French-speaking Belgium participated, or 120,750 euros per year for multi-institution projects, which means that there are several university institutions participating in French-speaking Belgium in the proposal. And so for FWO, the rules for research projects of fundamental research apply. So as mentioned before, staff and consumables, at least 50,000 euros per year, and at most 145,000 euros per year. And as mentioned earlier as well, equipment, a maximum of 150,000 per project, all Flemish and federal institutions included. So for other agencies, you need to check their website and ask your forum partners who are familiar with the rules in place of their funding agencies. So this question came by in the written questions as well. I've already answered to this as well. So I'm heading for a joint DFG FNRS application with the DFG being the lead agency. So I understand that the scientific evaluation is done by the German side, but I do not know exactly how the FNRS could or would influence the final acceptation of the application. This is very easy. The evaluation is done by the DFG, and then afterwards, if the DFG decides that it's financeable, then in principle, the FNRS will also finance the application. So all participating agencies have agreed to follow and accept the evaluation of the lead agency. Is there any list of preferred topics? No, there is not. Both the FWO and the FNRS are bottom-up funding agencies, so there are no preferred topics. However, and this is specific, so when collaborating with partners abroad, you should check if the partner agencies have preferred topics. There are not many, most of them are bottom up, but for example, F.R.S, the new partner in the FWO call and the new partner abroad as well, they fund bottom up fundamental and need driven research in all scientific domains, but with a focus on the following areas of activity, so environment, agricultural sciences, and spatial planning. And this is a crucial part for the eligibility check on the Swedish side. Therefore, Swedish researchers and the Swedish part of the joint WEAF proposal must adhere to the restrictions within F.R.S areas of responsibility. And so this question, would WEAF allow me to jointly conduct research at both KU Leuven and Université de Liège? What is the difference between WEAF and a co-tutelle? As a co-tutelle would allow me 2 PhD degrees between the 2 universities. How does WEAF differ? So I answered this question in written as well, because it is, of course, WEAF is meant for project applications. So within WEAF projects, you can, if you want to, decide to split the cost of a PhD student between the 2 agencies. So do 2 years, as 2 years at FWO and 2 years at FNRS, for example. So this is possible, and then the concerned institutions, so in this case, Université de Liège and KU Leuven, need to practically agree on how they will implement this contract-wise. So that's one thing. But from what I understood is that this question came from a person who is currently applying for a mandate, in fact, and this is not the same thing. Of course, WEAF is directed toward for research projects, so for confirmed researchers can apply. Yeah, and so this is not mandate related. So this is a different topic in this case. Is it possible to apply for 2 different WEAF projects? So at the FNRS, one can only apply as a promoter to 1 WEAF project at a time. So, and one can only apply as a promoter to 1 PDR project at a time. So this is quite straightforward. So you cannot apply to several WEAF proposals during the same year. In fact, you need to limit it to 1. And for FWO, yes, this is possible, but you need to keep in mind that WEAF projects are taken into account for the maximum of 2 projects per application round. And they also fall within the rule stating that the total number of research projects of fundamental research applied for and currently ongoing in name of one and the same supervisor cannot be more than 2 on the starting date of the new granted project. So another PhD question. I started my PhD in September 2022, acquired an initial understanding of my topic, and I'm currently working towards achieving initial proof of concept demo by March 23 for my PhD topic. Is it still in time, or am I already late to consider applying? In this case, PhD students cannot apply for neither for FNRS and neither for FWO research projects. So please make sure to check the eligibility criteria of your funding agency before taking up an official role in a WEAF application. And please note that any ineligibility issue will render the entire project ineligible. So at the FNRS side, check our regulations for the PDR or the WEAF regulations, but you need to be a confirmed researcher with a permanent contract. And FWO side, it's the regulations of the fundamental research projects that apply. So it's chapter 2 that details the eligibility criteria. So will WEAF project be judged in the same way and by the same panels as the classical FWO research project, or is it a different category? So first of all, the evaluation is done by the lead agency, and so when FWO is the lead agency, then the normal FWO evaluation procedures apply. So in practice, this means that you have to submit to one of the 32 FWO panels, and so FWO expert panels as a junior or senior research project for fundamental research. And please be aware that also the postdoctoral seniority of all foreign co-supervisors needs to be taken into account for classification in junior or senior category. Your proposal is not a different category and will be evaluated in competition with all other junior or senior projects submitted to this panel. So the success rate of the lead agency applies, and it's capped at 20%. And in fact, the FWO success rate is quite similar. Then, can we submit simultaneously PDR through the FNRS website and the project through the Weave network? So what are the restricted limits with ongoing FWO FNRS projects? So for the FNRS, it's possible to combine one PDR with or without partners from Weave countries that the FNRS works with, and one Weave project. So double financing is not allowed, so projects have to be different. And so for FWO, your Weave proposal is included in the quota of maximum 2 projects per application round and the maximum of 2 requested plus running projects, independent of the choice of lead agency. So you cannot submit the identical Weave project to more than one agency in the same year. How does the financial split between different funders work? For example, between FWO and FNRS? And can a collaboration include a private partner such as a spin-off? If a proposal is recommended for funding, each funding agency will fund its respective researchers. So a Flemish researcher will also always receive funding from the FWO according to the FWO regulations, and the French-speaking researcher will always receive funding from the FNRS according to our regulations. And in order to see which partners are eligible for funding, you have to check the eligibility criteria as mentioned before. And at both FWO and FNRS, the inclusion of a private partner or spin-off is not possible. What's the difference for the researcher if the foreign agency has the lead instead of FWO? First of all, and this is major, of course, the evaluation will be done by the lead agency with the success rate capped at 20%. The project duration can vary depending on the choice of the lead agency. For example, 3 years when it's a Flemish-Slovenian project, which is submitted in Slovenia, and 4 years when you submit it at FWO. The project start date can vary as well. And the modalities of the project call of the lead agency apply. So in case FWO is a lead agency, there's a differentiation made between junior and senior projects. So these are separate competitions. And please be aware that also the postdoctoral seniority of all foreign co-supervisors needs to be taken into account for the classification in junior or senior category. This means if a junior researcher submits on FWO side and you would like to work with an FNRS, the FNRS researcher also needs to be a junior researcher. So this differentiation is not made when FWO is a partner agency, because these categories do not always exist in other calls. Does applying with 3 instead of 2 applicants have any impact on the chances? So the number of partners will not impact chances of success. The main evaluation criteria is namely scientific excellence. That is why it is possible to be in direct competition with all the other proposals submitted in a call because the evaluation criteria did not differ. So no matter, all included partners should therefore have an added value, and the consortium composition needs to be thought to and justified scientifically, as well as in the budgets that are requested. So these were the questions we got beforehand, and I see that me and my colleagues that we answered to 56 questions by written version, and that there were still 5 open questions. So I'll take the first one, and then I'll distribute the questions to my colleagues if it's more an FWO or a FNRS oriented question. So can you share the success rate of not Weave PDR projects at the FNRS? Okay, I see Florence, you want to reply.
No, I'm just marking it down. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So first of all, there's no differentiation between Weave and non-Weave projects. So they are in the same competition. However, the Weave the Weave projects are capped at 20%, whereas the overall success rate in the last PDR call was approximately 35%. So that's for the first question. The second question, the Swiss SNSF has two deadlines, the 1st of April and October the 1st, and therefore two starting dates, so January versus June 2024. If the lead is the SNSF and the partner is FNRS, and SNSF the lead applies on October the 1st, when will be the application deadline and the starting date for the FNRS partner? So the application deadline will be 7 days after the application deadline at SNSF, so on the 8th of October normally. And then so the starting date for the FNRS partner, so then you have the Swiss organizing their evaluation procedure. If I'm not mistaken, we will get those results approximately in March, April, and the project should start in June, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and Florence agrees with me, so I didn't, yeah. Okay, then another question. Do we understand properly that if you are already promoter of a running PDR, you're not allowed to choose the FNRS as lead agency for a PDR weave? Florence, would you want to?
Yes, so here the regular confusion that we see. So as mentioned before, if you choose the FNRS as a lead agency, whether you include partners from the Weave initiative or not, it's a PDR. And within the rules of the FNRS, you can only have one running PDR at a time. So if you have a running PDR and it ends within the year of the call, so for example, you have a PDR that ends in 2023, then you can apply to this year's call as a PDR as a promoter, including Weave partners or not. The denomination Weave, a Weave project, is when you apply to a foreign agency, to one of the partner agency as a lead. So when you do not apply to the FNRS, and here you can combine one PDR and one Weave project. So I hope this clarifies, but don't hesitate to ask again that question. So when you apply at the FNRS, it's a PDR. When you apply it outside the FNRS, it's a Weave.
Yes, thank you very much. And of course, we are giving this session now, but any questions that remain unclear, Florence and myself, we are always there for you to help you prepare the administrative details as well, and to advise you on where to submit, etc., and how to submit as well. And I see there's only one more open question, and Tina would like to reply to it. So Tina, I'll ask the question, and then I will wait for your reply. So for the budget, so each partner follows the rules of the local funder, correct? Yes, correct. But then the whole budget needs to be explained and justified to the lead agency, correct? Yes, this is also correct. So taking into account the different salaries, etc. Tina, would you like to specify further?
Yes, but it has been said, of course, before in the info session, but indeed, so each researcher has to abide to the rules of its own funding agency. And in the submission to the lead agency, you really have to list all budgets requested. So there will be, in the form of the lead agency, there will be a specific section for the budget of the lead agency teams, but also for all the other foreign budgets. So please list everything over there. And as I said before, in the administrative submissions to, for example, FWO as partner agency, make sure that the budget requested is the same also for the specific budget years. And of course, a scientific motivation justification is very crucial as well, because the lead agency is responsible for the evaluation of all the budgets requested of the entire Weave proposal.
Okay. Thank you. And there are some questions came in at the latest. Oh, but Isabel already answered another question, so I see. Very good. So there's another question of Miss Livera, which Tina is starting to reply now as well. I think this is the question about the mandate, if I'm not mistaken. I think to explain to you clearly, then then you can also contact us afterwards as well, because from what I understand, you are applying at the moment for a PhD student mandate at the FWO and the FNRS, which is of course another category and does not fall, because this weave is really is for research projects and not but yeah, feel free to give us a call so that we explain this more in detail after this session as well. What are the differences exactly? I'm not sure, perhaps because I answered this question during the session as well. Not sure if any of my other colleagues would like to add something to this. I don't think so. Okay, very good. Then we have a question of Professor Gengler, who already has a weave as an FNRS partner running. So can you ask for another weave? Florence, would you like to ask this question? Or would you like to answer this question? Pardon?
Yeah, so for the weave, it's the same rules as for the PDR. So if you have a running weave and it's in its last year, and then you can apply. There has to be minimal coverage between the weave that you have running currently and the weave that will be funded afterwards. So it's exactly the same rule as the PDR. So if you're in your last year of weave, yes, you can apply to another weave.
Okay. Thank you. And so the next question, which is a question of principle. So how can a Belgian agency, FWO or FNRS, have a clear idea prior to evaluation how many projects need to be funded if the evaluation is entirely on the external side? Are the funds available in case each of the external lead agency would decide to fund the full 20%? So Isabel, I see you're eager to respond to this question.
Yes, indeed, Joël. Well, first of all, let me explain that it is not a 20% in a funding line. It's a 20% threshold that is a quality threshold. It means that abroad, but also at FWO FNRS, we will fund the project that fall into the top 20% of most excellent proposals. So at FWO or FNRS or abroad, we make a ranking based on the evaluation criteria, and the top 20% of most excellent proposals receive funding. So whenever your proposal is ranked in that top 20% of quality, it is proposed for funding, by the lead agency. So it's not a 20% of an available budget, it's a quality threshold that we handle. This means that we, of course, never know at FWO nor at FNRS how many proposals will be selected for funding. And of course, the more the better. It means that you, as researchers from Belgium, are performing very well in the competitions abroad. But for example, if 20 proposals are submitted at DFG, it could be that 10 of them make it to the top 20, but it could be that only 2 of them make it to the top 20, because it's not a funding threshold, it's a quality threshold. FWO and FNRS, they are all ready to fund that because we make an estimation based on what has been submitted abroad. We make a reservation of the budget, and of course we make sure that we have a buffer. So don't worry about that. Whenever you're ranked as a top 20 most excellent proposal abroad, or at FNRS or at FWO, you will receive funding.
Yes, thank you, Isabel. I hope that this was clear for everyone. So then there's another question for FWO as a lead. So what is the division of the application subject in the successful project of last year? I'm not sure. Isabel or Tina, could you reply in direct at this moment?
Yes, I can. However, I was already typing an answer, so can you please repeat the question?
So what is the division of the application subjects in the successful projects last year with FWO as lead?
Oh, that's very, very diverse. But let me open a file that I have on another screen. And you can always find it later on in all the reports that you can find on the FWO website. It's completely transparent what we fund. So there you will be able to see in which topics we were able to fund WEAF projects. So let me have a look. Most of them have been submitted to science and technology, and then I mean submit. Yeah, within the lead, we received no less than 32 proposals in science and technology, 16 in the medical science, then 13 biology, and languages 8, then GNM. So yeah, it's also social science and humanities, humanities 11 and interdisciplinary 9. This is what we received, and it's a little bit the same. Most of them were also funded in science and technology, but that's because we had, of course, many proposals in science and technology. 4 in maths, 4 in cult, and 3 in biology, 1 interdisciplinary and 1 interdisciplinary project, and 2 in languages and code.
Okay, very good. And there is one question remaining, if I see this correctly, which is regarding a previous intervention of Isabelle. The top 20% of the projects are funded at the FWO at large. So throughout the 32 panels or per panel?
Yeah, so at FWO, it's quite easy. And I think it's the same way they handle it at FNRS. We have a total amount of budget available for the project, and there is a total amount of requested funding overall. What we do, we divide, of course, both of them, and there is a success rate. And we apply that success rate across all panels. So we don't make a selection which panel will deserve more funding this year. It's based on the requested amounts, and we apply the same success rate. Last year, the success rate at FWO was around 22, so around the 20% of the WEAF threshold. And every year it's different depending on the budget available and the budget applied for.
Okay, very good. If I'm not mistaken, there are no more remaining questions. As I said earlier, all the questions that we have reply to either in the presentation, either in writing during this information session, or either verbally for the last questions that remained. We will, of course, try and compile all of them in a frequently asked questions section that we will, of course, add to our website so that you can consult this afterwards if you have any questions. As said at the beginning of the question and answers as well, we will publish and this session and the presentation, and the frequently asked questions after this session on our website. And of course, teams at FWO and at FNRS remain at your service to ask any questions that you might have. If you have doubts on how it works, if you have doubts on how to do it, do not hesitate to contact us. That's why we are there, and we want this to succeed. I think another one of the questions that I answered in written was about the number of partners. As you can see, the FWO, there are a total of 12 partners within WEAV at the moment, and each agency decides to open up to which partners. As you can see, FWO has 8 of them already. FNRS has a few less, so FNRS has 4 at the moment. We hope as well to open up further, and of course, it will always help if people express their interest interest in this way of working and say, yeah, this is something that that works for us. It gives more possibilities to work with partners abroad. So that's very important for us to be able to open up further as well, and to go to all those partners that are in Weave for now. No longer any closing words, although there is a question still popping up, which is, let's take this as a final question. So, and although and I see Tina would like to reply to it. Go ahead, Tina.
So yeah, I would just recommend you to put your question on email to weave@fwo.be, and then I will provide you with the correct contact details of the Research Coordination Office at the VU. So we'll be happy to do that.
Okay. Very good. So I would like to thank all of you for participating in this information session, which we will put online as soon as possible. And we all wish you the best of luck if you want to apply with partners in a Weave constellation. So yeah, let's hope that it will be another success this year as it was last year. Isabel, would you like to add something?
No, that was perfectly clear. I was happy to see that there were so many interested people. And I also want to add again that if you have any further questions, we are all there to answer your questions. So please drop us a sentence, drop us a line, phone us, email us, and we will help you out. I wish you all the best with your submissions. Take advantage of all the opportunities that we offer. They are there for you, so use them. Enjoy the rest of the day, and see you on a later occasion.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.